excited. Our longest one, and we only have to do it once. How great is that?
I can feel the sarcasm just dripping through the audio.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Midlight Crisis, a real podcast hosted by three grown-up biologists revisiting books from our teens, and it's totally cool. I am one of your hosts, Sophie, and for the last time ever, well, maybe not ever, but ever for now, I have a randomly generated fantasy name. And my fantasy name for today is Samwan Griffin Bandit.
You're stealing my name again.
I am Sam again.
Again.
I'm stealing your name and all of your griffins.
Damn.
Not my griffins.
They're all mine. Oh my god. Whoever is in the fantasy name generator right now is flipping through names.
It's me.
And I just saw Moon Dipper, Plant Crawler, Willoling. Anyway, who are you guys?
My name is actually Sam, unlike Sophie the imposter. But in fantasy land, for the last time, you can call me Perella Redbottom.
Ooh. I don't like that.
Perella.
Perella's fine. That's not the problem.
Perella's good.
The red bottom.
Red bottom, I have some concerns.
I didn't make the generator.
Okay, listen,
we don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, anyways, Hannah, who are you?
I hope you're House Chipper, which is the current name that's up on my screen.
I'm not House Chipper. I am, in fact, Hannah. But also, for today only, I am Micton Last Winner.
Oh, the last winner.
You're the last winner.
Damn.
Yeah.
What was the first part?
Micton.
Micton. Wow. That's a normal name.
Just a normal name for a normal guy.
A normal guy. A normal
Micton.
last winner.
Last winner.
Dang.
Because it's the last one we'll ever get until we decide to use this generator again.
Yeah. Listen, we don't have to do fantasy again for a minute, I think.
It's true. Yeah.
Until it's funny again.
Until it's funny again.
Much like when we finished Twilight, today we're doing the dragon biology episode. We thought about doing any creature biology in the book, and then we were like, we don't want this to be 8 hours. So we're just doing dragons, and anything else you'll just have to go back and listen to the other episodes. Sorry. Obviously, this is going to be a little bit different setup-wise. We're just going to kind of go through things one by one, say things we were fairly sure about, and then make decisions on things that we were not.
It will be extremely efficient. We will not go off on any tangents.
Never once in our lives. So I think let's just get right into the first thing we're going to talk about, which is dragon eggs.
Dragon eggs.
Dragon eggs. Because that's where it all began, if you think about it. So I listened to the first batch of episodes, so I have a lot of egg stuff. So the very first and most important thing we determined that the size of the egg is the correct size to allow for the size of dragon that eventually came out of it. Because sauropods also had teeny tiny eggs.
And sauropods were the really big ones, right?
Yeah, they were the long necks. And then the next big thing we talked about, because Eragon made such a big deal about it, was the material that the egg was made from, because it was like hardened silk and like nothing he'd ever seen before. Silk is a natural protein, so we thought maybe if it was actually silk, it could be just some hardened version of that. Or alternately, maybe it was made of, I forgot this part. Maybe because if it was like nothing he'd never seen, then maybe it wasn't made out of calcium carbonate like normal eggs. So it could also be made of chitin, like a nematode egg.
Oh my god.
Remember?
Why? You have to bring nematodes into everything.
Every time.
Every episode.
Sophie always has nematodes.
I mean, probably. At least once. And then the third option is that maybe it is actually made out of calcium carbonate, but perhaps because it was also described as very marble-like in smoothness and hardness, that it was formed of something like marble, which is a calcium carbonate, which is the same stuff that coral or pearls or things like that are made of. But it was made through it went through a process of like heating and pressurizing that turned it into something like marble. So I
Yeah.
feel like that one is probably the one we're going to go with, right? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's
Marble.
that one.
Hannah just likes the marble idea because it was hers.
Listen.
But yeah, we'll get into why the heating and pressurizing probably makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to go with that one. And then also one last thing is we thought that maybe the marble was also mixed with like a metal that maybe the dragon eats or takes in its food because the egg rings when you bang on it.
Yeah, honestly, what the hell?
Yeah, so like a crystal wine glass or something, which have like lead added to it to make that ringing sound. Maybe that's what's in it. Or it's magic.
It's magic.
Likely magic.
It's probably magic. It's probably Christopher Paolini didn't think that this hard about his egg.
But we did.
But we did.
It just had to be cool and ringing. Come on.
No rule of cool allowed in this podcast.
This is why someone needs to send our podcast to Paolini, and then he
No.
needs to realize how
No.
great we are,
No.
and then bring us on as science consultants.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
bring us onto your movie, actually.
Let us help.
Don't listen to this podcast because I feel like it's kind of mean sometimes, but we do want to be in your TV show.
I'm mostly the mean one. That's okay. I'm okay with that.
Listen, if
I
you
love
bring
your
us
book.
on as consultants for your cool book movie, we'll delete every episode we made about Eragon.
Deal. Yeah. You receive no episodes of Eragon. We receive
A job.
TV episodes
A
of Eragon.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
Yeah.
deal.
All right,
Balanced.
we gotta reiterate, we are gonna watch the TV show. And by that I mean two
We
of
are.
us are. Yeah, and then to go closer to the end part of the egg's existence.
That's a really normal way to phrase that.
Normal way to phrase it. Well, because we see this thing about how the egg has this like delayed hatching, right? And so because the mother dragon like lays this egg and the egg is ready to hatch the minute she lays it. It delays until the rider appears or some like external signifier, I don't know, trigger, I guess, causes the egg to hatch. And we weren't 100% sure about what that might be, but some of the things we suggested were that it's like mind magic in that the baby seems to be able to mentally connect with the rider from the egg.
From the egg before it even hatches.
Yeah.
Before it even hatches. And so perhaps that connection with the rider or the mother dragon signals to the baby that it's time to hatch. We also had talked about maybe some like, oh, there's an increase in food in the mother's body or something that tells the baby when to hatch, maybe like some sort of behavioral change in the group of dragons around it that cause it to hatch. But what do you guys think?
I feel like in the wild type dragon, the non-rider dragon, the environmental cue makes the most sense.
But I feel like there has to be something with the rider as well. Maybe the rider option is like the dominant trait, and if that doesn't happen, then environmental kicks in or
Oh,
something.
I was thinking almost the opposite, where some kind of magic would be done to eggs that were going to be given to the riders to make it so that they wouldn't
Oh.
hatch until they met their rider.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'd buy that too.
That's not my original idea. I don't remember what book it's from, though. Like, I don't remember if it's from this series, but in a later book, or if it's just from another series altogether.
That's an interesting idea, though. I like that because it seems just kind of wild to have that happen all the time, you know?
Yeah, that can't
Yeah.
possibly be like a wild type thing,
Yeah.
which I guess is going to be my overused phrase for this episode.
Wild type and energetically expensive. Drink. No. So we had talked about that the egg being ready to hatch the minute it comes out of the mother. Like the egg exists just to protect the mother from this like very sharp
Oh yeah,
baby dragon.
still seems valid to me.
Yeah, and so there aren't any like animals that have delayed hatching for that long, especially after incubation is done. So yeah, it would make sense that the magic holds it in stasis until it finds its rider.
I'd buy that.
Yeah.
I feel like magic is going to end up being a cop-out for a lot of these things, but to me this is one where it makes sense to say that this is because of magic.
Yeah, I feel like as long as we're running through every option
Yeah,
until it's like, okay, well, this one part has to be magic.
yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like you said, there's no way that something can just organically be in this kind of stasis for that long. Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Magic.
Cool. Decided. It's magic.
It's magic.
That took us a long time to get.
This is going to be a short episode.
Yeah. Cool. So, Sam, did you have anything about eggs in your episodes?
No.
Yeah, that's
nothing.
fair. The dragon did hatch in my episode.
She had already hatched, and I think we had talked a little bit more about the mind talk stuff, but it wasn't really in relation to the egg, so I have nothing
Sure.
to add.
Great. Perfect. What about you, Hannah?
Yeah, no, I had the last several chapters of the book, and Saphira was definitely not an egg at that point.
No. Very much
Definitely
not an egg.
Nor did she have any eggs.
She has not laid an egg.
Let's move on to, like, basic dragon anatomy.
Okay.
Yes.
Once she's out of the egg, what's up with her whole situation? Yeah, and you know what? Let's just start at the top and work our way down. Head down.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so I guess anybody got some eyes? Eyeball? Dragon eyes?
I have dragon eyes.
Sam has dragon
Ooh.
eyes.
In one of the chapters, we established that Saphira has a blue tint to her vision,
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
which we had several running hypotheses about why this was. One related, was it because she's blue? She sees blue? Is it to attract a mate? Is it camouflage? There was lots and lots of different theories we had, but basically the reason why she has the blue tint, we concluded being down to there's 3 types of cones within the eye that correspond to red, blue, and green wavelengths. So Saphira's eyes have more of the blue cones, which means that she can probably likely see into the UV range, which is actually fairly common in reptiles. We didn't really conclude as to what the advantage was, but we did go into maybe it helps her see different colored dragons and it makes blue dragons more obvious, which then could be a mating display. So then the blue tint for a blue dragon could have been as a result of sexual selection for different colors of the different dragons. But we didn't really have a solid conclusion on this. We just kind of talked about it a lot.
Okay, this is gonna be a hypothesis that we haven't talked about yet.
Okay.
But what if like each of the colors is a subspecies?
Yeah, we did talk about that.
Yeah.
I tried to condense things down. Sorry, maybe my note taking isn't the greatest, but we did have it down to the different colors was different subspecies. But then we also concluded that that likely wasn't it because it didn't really make sense. And we were like, oh, it's more likely a sexual selection thing. And that maybe that they go for the color that they're like, which then I guess goes to creating subspecies. I'm talking myself in a circle. Anyway, sorry, Sophie, continue.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking that maybe pre-sentience, what if there was a situation where they were, what's the one where they're separate allopatric speciation? Is that where they're separated by
I can never remember.
You did bring this up the first time, though.
Having the exact same thoughts. Anyway,
yes.
So maybe I was right. Maybe it's allopatric speciation. And then they developed flying or whatever, and then that's just a weird holdover from it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of concluded that there wasn't enough information to solidly decide. But yeah, Hannah, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say, I think my opinion then and my opinion still now is that the fact that her vision is blue and her color is blue are just a coincidence, and that it's just that she's seeing into ultraviolet.
Which I think is the more realistic one. Or honestly, I just don't have faith that Pellini maybe put that much thought into it and that all dragons see in blue. There's still a part of me that's like, this might be color specific, but I will never know.
We'll never know. Yeah. I know in later books there's a red dragon, a green dragon, and a gold dragon, all of which Eragon interacts with, but I can't remember if he ever hears what it's like to see through their eyes.
Yeah, alas.
Weird that it never gets addressed. Okay, well, we'll just call it requiring UV vision for some reason, whether it's prey or mating.
I think all of our theories are plausible. I just don't think we have enough data to solidly be yeah, it's this.
I agree.
But I think we
Yeah.
can definitely say she sees into the UV range, which is a common trait in reptiles itself. So it's not super far-fetched that she would be able to have this blue tint in her eyes. Or in her
Chill.
vision, sorry. So,
Cool. All right.
Neat. She probably
Yeah.
also has blue eyes, though.
She does.
Okay.
yeah, I
great.
have the book right in front of me. She does.
She also does have blue eyes. But, like, I have
Yeah.
blue
Yeah.
eyes, and I don't have blue-tinted vision.
Are you sure?
No.
How would you know unless one of us
Ah!
looked through your eyes?
Oh, no.
Oh, that's a good point.
Oh, I
Jeez,
hate
Sophie.
I also listened to the episode where we had an existential crisis over thinking about what thoughts were, so
Ah.
I'm in that kind of mood.
No, Sam, please say there's
Anyway.
more eye stuff. Move us along from this.
I don't have anything more specific on the eyes. Let me just do
Okay.
a quick check. That is all I have.
All
Great.
right.
Okay, nothing from you, Hannah, about eyeballs?
Nothing about eyeballs on my end.
Okay, let's move on to those chompers.
Oh, man.
Anything to do with Saphira's mouth? I don't have a lot about the teeth because I think what's going to happen is that a lot of my stuff was like the very first time something got mentioned,
Yeah.
and then we extrapolate from there in later episodes.
Mm.
But so the only thing about Saphira's mouth and teeth that I had was that her teeth were very sharp.
Yes, I had that
And-
as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and she has rows of teeth like a shark.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that
Yes.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, so for that, there was one point where Saphira yawned, and Eragon mentioned seeing her rows of teeth. And so we hypothesized that unlike most reptiles, maybe she has like continually growing teeth. And so she has, like a shark, rows of teeth that kind of grow out from inside of her mouth. So as they get lost, new ones replace them, which sort of happens if you evolve to be reckless with your teeth,
Uh-huh.
you know? So it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
if you break one because another one's going to come out. So, I mean, it's common in sharks, but not common in reptiles or mammals
Yeah.
or anything else, really.
Yeah.
But not totally unbelievable, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does exist.
Yeah. So I think there's like a moderate amount of evidence for that to be the case.
We later see her, like, biting a tree and, like, ripping Cull in half with her teeth. So to say
Right,
that she's
yeah.
reckless with her teeth is probably fair.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, so did you guys have maybe more about her teeth or mouth or anything?
Yeah, later on when Saphira is about 6 months old, we find out that her fangs are the same diameter as Eragon's fist, so her teeth upscale, presumably with the rest of her, and that this makes them approximately the same size as the tooth of Leviathan, which is a sperm whale ancestor, an extinct one, obviously.
Wow, who brought that up, I wonder?
Yeah, who could possibly have brought up an extinct vertebrate? The point that comes up here, is that her teeth are as sharp as a rock. So we talked a little bit about how she must have some kind of adaptation to keep her from hurting herself with her own teeth. So we talked a little bit about how cats have kind of their teeth like offset a little bit and then also have little gum pockets that the teeth fit into. I think Sophie also mentioned something about like her jaw configuration so that her jaw just can't shut all the way or in such a way that it would damage her own gums. And then we also talked a little bit about how lizards and therefore Saphira all have undifferentiated teeth, so all of her teeth are probably about the same size and shape, which makes sense. I still am on board with all of this.
Yeah, and the being super sharp kind of tracks with having like continually replacing teeth, you know, because they're never going to like dull down or wear out because they just keep getting replaced.
Yeah, like her teeth never get dull, therefore she must always be replacing them.
God, imagine just like losing teeth the size of like your wrist
Oh my god.
No,
Ew.
thank you.
every day or
Is
week
she just,
or
like,
whatever.
Leaving teeth, and as we might get to later, possibly like scales just all over the continent.
I think so.
A giant, it's like a snake skin,
Oh,
but
God.
a dragon.
Oh my god.
Oh, we'll get to that.
No, we'll get to that. Okay, let's move on to like vocalization mouth stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to mouth stuff. Come on, guys.
Some more mouth stuff.
Oh,
She
I
has
shouldn't have been as
lips.
excited about that.
Uh,
Go ahead, Sam.
It's very small things, but we can confirm with her mouth that she can smile wolfishly,
Oh god.
which is fun. And then we find out with her mouth she can bugle.
Oh
And
yeah.
that was we never concluded whether that was a bugle like the elk or a bugle like the instrument, but she bugles.
Wow.
Wow.
And that comes up several times, but it first comes up in one of the episodes I listened to.
I was going to save this for later, but actually this part feels better to put it in.
All right.
We had talked about the babies peeping from inside the egg
Mm-hmm.
and like talking to the parent, which implies that there are dragon cuckoos.
Oh yeah. Horrifying.
So just that the babies can like actually converse from inside the egg.
I wonder if they can speak in like a language or vocalization that adult dragons can understand, or if they just like babble.
Well, so we had talked about that it being like cats,
Mhm.
where the dragons make physical noises even though they can talk mind to mind with each other,
Right.
but they make these like vocalizations to interact with humans.
Okay. I had that same point from our later chapters as well.
Okay, yeah, because we talked about it here, and I assume we talked about it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that these bugles or peeping or whatever was just to talk to humans who use like physical language.
Yeah. I still
Which
like
seems
that idea.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course you would like it, Hannah.
Listen. I am predictable. Yeah, in mine, the main vocalization she does, or in my set of chapters rather, the main vocalization she does was humming, which we hypothesized was like similar, again, to cats, and that it might be analogous to purring, which we did not get into because we did not have time to get into all of the wild and wacky stuff about cat purring, and we don't really have time to get into it now.
Yeah, especially because it wasn't called purring. You know,
No,
it was
yeah,
humming.
It was humming. I think she rumbled at one point,
Yeah. I think the conversing with humans is a good hypothesis for that.
I agree.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, what else that mouth do?
No! Well, she has a very rough tongue in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sam said there was other stuff that she wanted to talk about.
Well, I don't know if it falls in behavior or if it falls in mouth stuff, so
I hate this section somehow.
anyways, it's just that in my chapters we get confirmation that Saphira needs to eat at least once a week. So it's more of like a diet aspect and behavioral aspect, but she eats with her mouth, so I wasn't sure.
Wow.
You can tell we put
You
a lot
don't
of thought
say.
into how to organize this episode.
Yeah.
I was very confused looking at my notes. I was like, I don't know where it goes, but here we are.
I think eating is good to put in this part.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't have a ton to add to it either, but I also have that she eats food whole.
Oh, yeah.
As
Okay,
a
yeah.
baby, at least.
Yeah. So she has
So-
to eat at least once a week, and that food is whole.
Yeah, which makes sense if she doesn't have differentiated
Yeah.
teeth.
Yeah.
And they're shark-like. She wouldn't really be able to chew.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Like, she could
Yeah.
maybe tear chunks off of something big, but she'd just have to swallow it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Next section,
Next
which is her neck, I guess?
Her neck. I guess, should we talk about her jaw? We didn't get into, like, a huge amount of detail because it doesn't come up a lot. But it's mentioned, like, offhand a few times that Saphira has, like, powerful jaws. And if you look at, like, the drawing of Saphira that they chose to put on the cover of the book, she also has what I believe Sophie referred to as, like, a strong reptilian jaw.
Sounds like something I would say.
Yeah. So in addition to somehow being built in a way that keeps her from, like, shredding herself with her own teeth, she has, like, powerful jaw muscles. So she must need to
Yeah.
bite through things. That was
Yeah.
basically the only conclusion we
Yes.
came to about her jaw.
I think we're going to talk about ecology a bit later, so I think we'll talk about that
Yep.
there.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
she has
that's a
big
good
jaw.
thing to remember.
Mm-hmm. She has a big
Yeah.
jaw. She has a rough tongue. We
Yeah.
didn't come to many conclusions about.
She doesn't have, like, horns or anything on her head, which, now that I think about it, is weird
It is-
for a
yeah.
dragon.
Yeah, it is.
People like to put all kinds of stuff on dragon heads.
Uh-huh. She has spikes, which go down her neck, the next part of her body.
Yeah, I think that might be the only thing we have to say about the neck area.
Yeah, it's long and snaky.
I can confirm that Brahm can wrap his arms around it at one point.
Okay.
We'll get into
Yeah,
that.
I know. That's it. That's all I have on the neck.
Yeah, all I have about the neck is that there are spines down it, but there is a spot for the saddle
Oh yeah,
to wrap around her neck.
which would be a wild thing to just occur naturally.
Our theory on that was that there was like co-evolution with the riders
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
for that.
Mhm.
But maybe we can talk about that.
No, we will get to that. We still haven't gotten into how the dragons artificially engineered themselves, but I'm sure that's coming.
I think that might be next.
Oh, good.
I think we're gonna do limbs next.
Ooh.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So this is the big section.
Uh-huh.
So right off the bat, let's just talk about the theory that started in my chapters, and then I think we talked about it in a million chapters, which was that the dragons were originally four-limbed in that they had 2 wings and 2 back legs, and then they magicked the 4 legs onto them.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that was like really, despite how wild it is,
Yeah.
I think that was the most likely thing we came up with.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, we'll get into the wings in a minute, but 4 limbs at least, right? They're kind of wild to exist.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the serrated claws. Saphira has serrated claws, which just don't exist anywhere in nature elsewhere, except in birds for like preening. But Saphira doesn't have feathers, so it doesn't really make any sense. So for this, the theory was that these serrated claws, this entire limb, was added with magic for fighting.
And we also speculated that the thick bones that come up later are part of like the magic addition for fighting. And maybe the jaw was related to the magic for fighting. We have support for this theory, okay?
We have a lot of support for this theory. Yeah, and so one of the things we had talked about with the 4 limbs in the stuff I listened to was we weren't sure if Saphira was digitigrade, which means like, is she flat-footed like a human, or is she kind of up on her front, like the ball of her foot, essentially the way like a dog would be or like T-Rex would be, which I don't think we got confirmation for that anywhere.
No.
So I don't think we can say, although I'm guessing she would be digitigrade because I guess like Komodo dragons aren't. Anyway, and then we also didn't really know if she had backwards toe claws, like to grip, like a hand.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because there was the scene where instead of like picking up the litter with Garrow on it, Eragon just ties it around her wrists. So we weren't sure if she could grip things, and we weren't sure if she could rotate the wrist inward the way humans can to sort of like face the palm up or face the palm down, because that also impedes how well you can grip things. That's what I had for the 4 legs. Anyone else got 4 limb stuff?
I don't necessarily have 4 limb stuff, except that at one point, kind of as a joke, but also kind of not as a joke, we speculated that Saphira is bipedal, because as she's walking,
Did we?
Yeah, her tail drags
Oh,
on the ground
yeah.
behind her, quote, like a thick blue snake.
Oh, that's funny. I don't remember that.
I didn't either until I listened to it. It was a joke. But
Okay.
like there is some merit to it, which would explain like why she has a difficult time walking on the ground and why she has a difficult time like picking things up. At one point, when Saphira is carrying Arya like strapped to her belly in an absolutely ridiculous configuration, one of the reasonings for that was that it would be too dangerous for Saphira to like carry her in her claws in case she had to
Serrated
land.
claws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think Saphira is bipedal, but we did talk about it.
No, I think, yeah, man, you know what? It's one thing to be a human with our bodies super messed up by being bipedal.
Yeah.
But it's another to be like, imagine you magicked yourself to be quadrupedal and just how your body has to deal with that.
I mean, it would be pretty messed up, I bet. There'd be a lot of repercussions.
Saphira's not good at walking.
No, that comes up a couple times.
But wait, if she magicked those front legs on, all other dragons are still quadrupeds, right? Like they still walk on all 4s. They just walk on their wings, right? So wouldn't her body design still be designed for that?
If they like tuck in their wings to their body. Because
oh, I see what you mean. Sorry. Okay, yes.
Yeah, like a bird does, you know?
But anytime I've seen them walk in media, I feel like they always use like the spikes on their wings. Like I feel like they're always walking on all 4s. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think I've seen bird-like dragons in media before, but it's certainly not as common.
The How
Okay.
to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that in a
one.
while.
Oh my
Okay,
gosh.
there's
Okay.
one that walks like that.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. Oh, does Toothless walk like that?
No,
No,
Toothless
it's
is a
it's
hexapod.
Astrid's one,
Yeah,
I think,
the
that walks like that.
Okay.
Stormfly? No, its name
Yeah.
is Stormfly. What's it called?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking that sort of thing where they were already tucking them into their body and just walking on two legs
Mhm.
Yes.
makes like a bit more sense to then magic a second set of legs on, whereas
Right.
Yes.
I mean, honestly, they're already using magic.
But
Either one can be true.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of like the Game of Thrones dragons because that's the most recent reference in my head, and they like full on walk with their wings.
Yeah,
so that's
they
why.
have the bat model.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that's what
I
I was
feel-
thinking.
Yeah.
Like Saphira, like at some point in this book has been described as having her wings tucked in.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I'm just thinking that now, regardless of what it was before,
Mhm.
I think now they sort of exist with their wings, like the classic four-legged dragon with two
Yeah.
wings, where they're
Yeah.
up against their back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do agree that our, as like ridiculous as it is, our like magically enhanced quadrupeds version
Yeah.
of dragons makes the most sense. But we did very briefly talk about a way in which they could have evolved as hexapods with those three pairs of legs. And that was in reference to a couple of kinds of fish. Sophie mentioned Mesocanthus, which I believe is extinct, Sophie?
Yeah, an extinct acanthodian.
Sure. And then also sharks, which have pectoral fins, pelvic fins, and claspers, which are all technically a set of limbs.
God, I forgot about this.
And this is the part of the podcast where we talked about Saphira's legs.
Oh, I also forgot we went there.
I forgot about this.
It was an extremely funny episode.
Yes, because this was because I found an article that stuff like Dunkleosteus, because the group that Dunkleosteus is in, there was an article that was like, actually, their claspers evolved from another set of fins, and so I was like,
Uh-oh.
they have six sets. They have six fins, three sets of fins, which means they could evolve into three sets of limbs.
They could have evolved into a dragon. And therefore, dragons
hate
could have
that.
evolved from fish, just like the rest of us.
Wow,
Yep.
amazing.
Wow.
Even though that theory made me laugh a lot, I still think the magic one makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like, why is because there's no other six-limbed
Yep.
organisms.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that later, but we could also talk about it now. Which is just that.
Yeah, there's not much else to say about it, really. It's just there's no other evidence in this book that any other being with six limbs exists. Therefore, it would be extremely implausible for dragons to be the only ones.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
be so similar to like other extant animals like lizards or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, that was all I had about the legs of
Yes.
both types. Do we want to talk about the wings?
Oh my gosh, let's talk about the wings.
Let's talk about the wings.
I have things on the wings.
Heck yeah.
I think we all have things on the wings.
Yeah, I don't have a much, but I think maybe we talked about them more with you guys, because really the only thing we had determined was that her wings are bat-like because they do have the finger bones coming through them.
Yes.
But she is not, in fact, a bat.
Wow, we're so smart.
No bad.
We're so smart.
So smart. We come up with such good ideas and articulate
We're
them
so
so,
smart.
well.
Yeah, and we figured that out because bats don't have claws on the ends of their finger bones in their wings, unless it's an extinct bat. So Saphira could be an extinct bat.
Maybe in this world, the one that went extinct in our world survived. We don't know.
Yeah.
And became a reptile.
Exactly. And then the only other thing we talked about was Saphira's wing bones being pretty robust.
Yeah.
Because Eragon jumps on them and they don't break.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about her thick bones at some point, but I think that's a little bit later in the episode.
Yeah. So that's all I really had for her wings, which I don't think requires us to decide anything.
No.
No.
What about you guys?
I don't have any deciding thing either, just that in one of the chapters, it's noted that the sun can shine through her wings, which made us go to the conclusion again about membranes and being more like bat wings. But we also made the conclusion that her wings are more likely like Yi Chi, the
Mhm.
dinosaur. Is that a dinosaur?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we basically made that conclusion off of the sun was shining through her membranes and kind of everything else about her, that her wings are most likely like Yi Chi.
And what is the
That's what I
structure of
have.
Ichi's wings? For those of us who
Sophie.
don't remember.
Yeah. I was like, Hannah, how dare you put me on the spot like that? You know I don't know that.
Yeah. And I'm naming a specific species, but I think there are a couple Scansoriopterid. Oh my god, Scansoriopterid
Gesundheit.
dinosaurs that have similar-ish wings, but Ichi basically has like 3 fingers that are closely grouped that have a little bit of membrane between them, and then there's like a huge flap that goes from the 3rd finger, or I guess the last finger, all the way back to the body, but there is an extra piece of bone, like a bone spur that grows out from the wrist, that goes through the wing.
And is that like
middle.
a stabilizer, or do they not know what that's for?
It's probably a stabilizer to keep the membrane like extended.
Right.
But also it's not like for sure known.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it's
makes
extinct
sense.
as hell.
Yeah. And the other thing to know about Ichi is that it was a glider. It wasn't
Mhm.
a powered flight. So
Yes.
similar to Ichi, but probably something.
Yeah.
Dragons are, I mean.
Yeah, because gliders tend to have bigger wings than creatures with powered flight, which we'll get into a little bit later. The main thing that came up about Saphira's wings in some of the episodes I listened to were that they are specifically referred to as an arm, which we perhaps gratuitously took as confirmation that the wing is the ancestral limb and the forelimbs are the magical limbs.
Yeah.
Still seems fine to me.
Still seems fine to me.
Yep. And then she also flaps very hard when she flies and can fly almost silently. And there was a little bit of talking about whether she has some like physiological adaptations like pycnofibers to break up turbulence around her wings, which would help her to fly more quietly, but we didn't come to any real conclusions about that. I think we posited cilia before we got to pycnofibers. Yeah, exactly. And that's gross.
Yeah, I think it makes sense that she has like some super fine hair-like structures on the edges of the membrane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they're probably not anywhere else on her body, and it probably evolved specifically for hunting and being quiet while flying, right? Like that makes sense to me.
Yeah, we'll get into the behavior later, but there are some parts of like the way she hunts that also support the idea that she has some way to be quiet while she flies.
Chill. I agree with that.
All right.
Yes. I did forget one super brief thing that almost doesn't really count as biology, but like Saphira gets caught in the lightning storm at one point and gets like flipped. And the only thing about that is that we talked about it was weird that she didn't have any way to like dump air from her wings, because like birds have a way to like just drop, you know, like a lot of animals have a way to just like, well, flying animals, they can control how much air, you know, they're keeping, how much lift they're keeping in their wing. But what we actually concluded from that is that dragons do probably have that, and Saphira was just too young, because this is quite early on. She hasn't been flying for a super long time.
Right.
And so she'd never experienced this kind of thing before and didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I still like that idea. There's a lot of stuff about like how Saphira knows a lot of things that she probably shouldn't, which again, we'll probably get into some of those a little bit later. But I still like these moments where it seems like she is a young sentient being that has to learn how to be a dragon and isn't just born with all of her instincts.
Or like she has the manual in her head but has to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into that, maybe.
Yeah, like a human, like the first time you try to, I don't know, run downhill or whatever, you probably will fall because you're like, oh god, I've never done this before, what's happening? So maybe it's like that.
Yeah, so okay, I think that's the wings. I think we're good there.
It's the wings.
Shall we talk about her like body, like the
Yaddy,
actual
yaddy,
torso,
yaddy, yaddy.
body yaddy,
Yes.
yaddy. Well, the only thing I think I have to add here is that we're pretty sure Saphira's warm-blooded.
Mm-hmm. I have notes about that as well.
That's really the only like body physiology thing we talked about in my stuff.
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Maybe like we're gonna probably talk about this a little bit more when we talk about mating,
Hey.
but it is sort of weird that like we get confirmation that they don't need to eat that often, but then during mating they do need to eat more, but then the amount of eating that they do seems to not track with a warm-blooded creature. So they could be not fully warm-blooded the way we think about it. Like maybe they do have lower metabolic requirements somehow, but yeah, we hadn't really gone into that. Yeah.
That's a little bit too far beyond my knowledge base, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I think we don't have enough information actually about it.
Yeah.
But we know that she is physically warm.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I don't have anything really on the body. I have just notes on how she uses it in different things, but I think we'll go into that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got the episodes where we concluded that Saphira's bones are made of carbon fiber and filled with helium, and that her lungs are a nuclear reactor that split atoms to make the helium.
This was the moment I was waiting for. This is it.
Literally wild that magic was more believable than this part.
This episode was great, but probably my favorite part about it was Sam and I, like, getting really into it, trading theories back and forth, and Sophie just coming in and being so annoyed that we were not considering parsimony.
Yep.
Guys! But that whole conversation stemmed out of a description of Saphira as having thick, strong bones and tons of muscle, which would make her heavy, and therefore would make it difficult for her to fly, so we were trying to figure out ways that she could be positively buoyant within the fluid that is air, as opposed to the fluid of water. A totally normal way of phrasing that. The thick bones we posited, like, that would sort of imply that they were ancestrally terrestrial, which we don't really like, because it doesn't line up with the fact that, like, they originally had wings. So then we considered that the thick bones were also a magical modification to make them a better fighter, like the serrated claws and possibly the jaw. I don't even know where to start with this.
Can we talk about the bones just like a little bit? Because I don't think it's fully unbelievable that it's made of something tougher than
bone.
Normal bone. Like maybe there's more additives,
Mm-hmm.
or it is just magic. But I feel like we had dismissed the idea that they could still be hollow and thick.
Yeah.
But like sauropods had, much like birds, they had air sacs inside their bones.
Right.
And they have giant bones.
Okay.
So like I don't think necessarily Saphira's like giant bones means that they're super heavy.
Okay.
You sure?
Because yeah, I talked about this in the episodes I listened to, but like birds, their bones aren't just like an empty space with a shell of a bone around it. Like it's all crisscrossed with like struts essentially, and then their lungs, part of their lung system, like expands into the bones as air sacs to lighten them. So they are actually full of air. And I feel like in a dragon that would, like, they don't need to be positively buoyant, right?
Yeah.
They just need to be able to take off.
Yeah.
Feel good about just saying that they have bird-like hollow bones that are reinforced in some way.
I think reinforced hollow bones is perhaps the most parsimonious adaptation we're going to get out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think, I don't remember how we got to the nuclear reactor, but should we
It was a lot.
talk about fire breathing in this part? Because what I was thinking is that maybe here we can tie in, like, maybe it's a nuclear reactor, maybe it's not. But we could tie in, like, there's something internal that she produces fire with that the females use to perhaps, like, pressurize or heat whatever makes their eggshells to make them extra hard, right? Because they're way harder than any other egg.
Yeah.
And then it could also explain some of the heat, that just physically heat that they produce. And we're just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, there was a lot of this was in episode 47 where a lot of this like radioactive nonsense happened, and it was extremely funny, and I highly recommend re-listening to it.
Yeah.
But there were like a surprising number of reasons why it like almost made sense that dragons have some kind of like internal nuclear component. Yeah, like in addition to the fact that they do need to produce like heat and eventually Saphira breathes fire, so they need like some way to do that. The dragons sparkle even though they have rough scales, which as Sophie pointed out is not really a compatible set of traits. And then my favorite one is that the reason that Eragon's body is changing so fast and the reason he heals so fast is that he's actually just being exposed to a ton of radionucleotides and all of his DNA is mutating. Which, like, I mean, it makes sense, kind of.
Like, we can probably just say that whatever makes magic, like the pool of magic that exists in a magic user, is something similar to nuclear, you know?
Yeah, something exothermic at the very least.
Yeah.
In that, like, it's a reaction that produces heat, which is why Saphira is warm, why she can breathe fire, why she can produce helium to fill her hollow bones and therefore fly.
Yeah. And maybe it's just like a super, what's the word, where like efficient process, which is why they don't have to eat as much.
Yeah.
Or as often as you would expect. Like, I don't know.
If you're here to listen to us talk about actually realistic dragon biology, like, I don't know what you wanted. You were never gonna get that.
Yeah, we'll get you 50% of the way there, and then it's nuclear fission inside of the carbon fiber bones.
Yeah, go read some Mercedes Lackey or something.
Wow. Well, anyway, I think that might be the body.
I did have one thing that I really liked that I don't think we need to talk about because it's ridiculous. But it was just that, like, if we're thinking about aerodynamics and, like, what Saphira's body should be shaped like in order to be the most efficient to, like, move through the sky even with her big size, Sophie said that she should look like a tuna with wings.
Yeah.
So...
she's got little slots that she can tuck her legs into. Like a tuna does with its dorsal fin.
Or like a sperm whale. They have little pockets that they tuck their pectoral fins into when they're diving.
Yeah. See?
Yeah. Saphira and her legs in their leg pockets.
Oh my god.
Sorry, Sam.
It's fine. I just had forgotten about the legs again.
How could you possibly forget about the legs? Should we also talk about her scales? There's not a ton to say about them. They're rough and yet sparkly. They like rub the shit out of Eragon's legs and he does not get an infection from it. But then they're also like concerned about them rubbing through the ropes when they do their ridiculous contraption with Arya on Saphira's belly. Sophie, you posited that she actually had like osteoderms rather than specifically scales on some parts of her body. And then we joked that she was a flying ankylosaur, which is very funny.
But she can't be because she needs armor. That's
true. She does get dragon armor and can carry it somehow, which again we'll get into at some point.
Yeah.
But the other thing with her scales is that we haven't seen her shed her skin at any point during this book.
She grew a lot.
She grew an awful lot. Like, so big.
Maybe she eats her own shed skin like a lobster.
Maybe. I looked into it because I'm like, you know, maybe there are reptiles that, like, don't shed their skins and it's just a myth that, like, all reptiles shed their skin. But it's not. All reptiles shed their skin. Some of them don't do it in, like, big sheets like snakes or, like, a lot of geckos do. Like, crocodilians or, like, turtles will lose, like, an individual scale or an individual scoot at a time. So it's probably that. But that just means Saphira's leaving dead scales like a candy. Maybe that's how the Urgles were always finding them.
This makes sense.
That makes sense.
Now that
it was a scale trail.
Now that I think about it.
Saphira was just leaving scales and teeth all over the place, and the Urgles were like, let's just follow the trail of scales and teeth. Wow, we solved it. Here in the 11th hour.
Cracked the code. I don't actually know if dinosaurs shed the way reptiles do. Because they have to grow a lot.
Yeah, and like they probably peel like how crocodilians do.
Yeah.
Rather than like the full body shed. But they still gotta do something.
Well, Saphira probably does that.
Yeah.
Because it's not mentioned. So we have to assume that because it's not mentioned, it means she doesn't shed in giant sheets.
Yeah, she has to do it in the least interesting way, which is certainly not gigantic sheets of dragon skin just flying off into the wind.
Flying all over the place.
'Cause that's horrifying.
Yeah,
That
truly
is
wild. Okay, I think that's Saphira's body done,
Yep.
right? Does anybody have anything about her tail?
It's a thick blue snake.
I have a point about her swimming with it.
Okay.
It's just that she uses it.
Yeah.
So
Suffice to say, her tail acts like a rudder
Yes.
yeah.
in the air or in the water.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I do have a quote that says we don't know where a dragon's cloaca is, so that's good to know.
That's great.
We went there?
Listen, it was in the
I'm
cklegs
sure we
conversation.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah,
that
I was
makes
just
sense.
that's where my brain was like, it must have been with legs.
It was with the
Anyways.
cklegs.
Must have been.
Oh my
This
god.
book wasn't as horny as Twilight, but we still managed to get some dicks in there.
We
I
still
would
did
argue
it.
that some parts were written as if they should be just as horny, but
Yeah, honestly,
it
we
was a
should do
romance
like a
novel, but-
romantic debrief as well as a biological one.
yes.
Yeah. No, it's just that everyone was the romantic interest. It's not going to
Exactly.
take us a whole
That's true.
episode.
Our treatise on why Eragon and Murtagh are actually secret lovers and not related at all.
Anyway, let's move on to the next subject, which is actually the behavior.
Ah.
So, Saphira obviously had many behaviors, but
Saphira does some behaviors in this book.
Saphira does some behaviors. Maybe let's just start off with swimming. What do you think? We were just talking about it.
Yeah, let's talk about the swimming.
Sure.
Okay. So I don't have anything about swimming because she didn't swim in my episodes. So let's go right into Sam.
She swam in mine.
Wow.
That episode, basically, her and Eragon just go for a swimmy swim, and we find out that she uses her feet and tail to steer, which is different than any extant reptiles. You guys can confirm because I don't know these things, but they only use their tails to swim. This is what we said in the episode,
Yeah.
so that is what I'm going with. Then we also had like a lot of talks on Eragon blowing his eardrums and stuff, and I just want to say I was not in like the best mindset at that recording. And I didn't say the smartest things for somebody who should know a lot about that kind of stuff. That's
Listen,
all.
we know
That's
better
my
now.
disclaimer.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all. It's just she uses her feet and tail in combination, which is fun.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
swam a little
Oh,
bit.
and she enjoys it. That
does
was the other
enjoy it.
thing.
Right.
Sorry. She does
Yeah.
actually enjoy it. That was the big thing.
Yeah, she does swim a little bit in one of my chapters as well, but not for fun because they're fighting Urgles under a waterfall. And the main thing that came out of that is that she becomes an ambush predator. So she will swim very quickly and very quietly under the water, then pop up and grab an Urgle and disappear down into the murky depths again. And just that she swims very well, which is not really
Yes.
an actionable item, but good to know.
Yeah, I think maybe we can talk about it, how it relates to hunting, maybe. Let's talk about Saphira's hunting behavior, because swimming might be one of them. Who knows?
Yeah, what the hell?
Again, I didn't have much discussion about behaviors in my episodes. So, not about hunting at least. The only thing we talked about really is that the fire breathing is not for hunting.
No.
Right.
So, that we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. Oh my god, what the hell?
Yeah. But yeah, what about hunting for you guys?
I also didn't have a lot, mostly just that we know that she had to eat once a week, which we already talked about, and that she's not very good at camouflaging, because in case you were wondering, dirt does not, in fact, hide a dragon.
Yeah.
So I don't think she's a very stealth hunter from that conclusion, but that's all I have.
Visual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she might be a stealth hunter from above, based on the fact that she can fly
Maybe.
nearly silently, and the swimming behavior is also all about ambush when she's fighting. So she might be an ambush predator, but not from the eye line of whatever she's hunting. She has to be
Right.
actively hidden, or just out of eyesight.
On that point, too, we also just find out that she is, in fact, slower than a horse on land.
Yes.
An average horse trot is 8 miles per hour, so not an effective hunter on land either.
Yeah. Not a walking type hunter.
No.
No.
No. So she attacks from above or below.
Yes.
Yes. One thing that came up a couple times in my chapters was that she grabs things when she's flying. It's not really a hunting thing, but like when she's fighting the Urgles or when she's like trying to carry the horses over the river, she grabs them with her feet, not with her mouth, which Sophie, I believe you mentioned is similar to how a lot of birds of prey hunt, as they hit feet first and then they carry things off with their feet. So that's just, again, more evidence that she probably evolved from a flying ancestor and not a terrestrial one.
I feel like it could imply that for these behaviors that they originally lived somewhere like near the water, and also like they would hunt both in the water and in the air, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting because one of the first things that happens when they arrive at the Hatterack Desert is Saphira loves it. Like, she is all about this desert. She feels like it's the place that she was made for. There's like wide open space, mountains for her to roost in, like camouflage prey that she can spend days hunting. She loves that it's warm. She's probably from the desert, or ancestrally,
Yeah.
dragons are probably from the desert. But there wouldn't be a lot of water in the desert, so the swimming thing is a little interesting in that light.
It could be that, like, just with sentience and like intelligence, right? Like humans have figured out how to hunt in a lot of different places
Yeah.
where we did not evolve to hunt,
Yeah.
you know, very opportunistically. So it could just be that dragons have like learned how to hunt in the water, you know?
Yeah. That was similar to the point that I was going to make, which is just that like humans are obviously not evolved to be in the water, but generally as a species, we love the water.
Yeah.
So it could just be similar for dragons. Yeah, I mean, I'm
a fish girl.
That generalization might be a little bit off because this is a podcast full of 3 people who specifically go
Love
to
the
where
water.
the ocean is all the time.
Yeah.
But like
Yes.
humans love being near water. And therefore it's not as much of a stretch to me to say that like dragons as a sentient species might not have evolved living in the water, but maybe they just really like it.
Yeah. Although that's kind of interesting because part of the reason, like the reason humans like shiny things is because our brains are like, ooh, water.
Yeah.
Because we're always thirsty.
Oh my god, tell me about it. I'm suffering so much over here.
Saphira is not always thirsty.
No, true.
Desert adaptation.
When they're crossing the desert and Eragon has to like pull water up from underground, Saphira only takes like a couple of sips compared to the horses, which drink so much water.
Yeah. So again, it does sort of imply that she's meant to live in the desert, sort of physiologically.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why dragons like treasure, because they're also thirsty.
Yeah, that's a great point. Shiny.
Anyway.
Yeah, I guess since we've pivoted into like ecology
Yeah.
and like evolution here, one thing about this is that what we talked about a bunch in our episodes is like, where are the prey that Saphira is eating? You know, like if we assume that dragons are like megafauna, you know, like this extremely large apex predator.
You cannot be more megafauna than a dragon.
Yeah, truly. Then like there has to be prey for them. And so we're sort of assuming that we assumed that there were prey items that we just like hadn't seen.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't really sure where to go with that. The only thing I could think is that they did mention that there were giant sea serpents in the water. So maybe the dragons are eating those.
Or maybe those are eating the dragons?
Of goats.
Lots of goats. The dragons do canonically steal food from dwarves, or steal animals from dwarves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they just eat gazelles.
Yes, there are also gazelles.
That checks.
Yeah, it's like, that's such a weird one, because it's like, there aren't dragons now, which means that whatever the dragons were eating should probably be proliferating to like an unhealthy degree almost, right?
Unless the ecosystem was a top-down control and the loss of dragons ultimately led to the whole collapse of the system because it was being controlled by that predator interaction.
Yeah, can you explain a top-down ecosystem a little bit?
Yeah, so a top-down ecosystem is one in which the ecosystem itself is controlled by the predators. So basically, if something happens to your predator, then you'll feel the changes throughout the ecosystem. The waterfall down from the predator down to the bottom of your food web / chain. And if you have a bottom-up control ecosystem, it's the opposite. So it's like the plants or your phytoplankton in an aquatic system, for example, are what's kind of the basis of what controls it. So if something happens at the bottom, you're going to feel those effects throughout the chain because of that. So if the ecosystem is top-down controlled by dragons, then the loss of the dragon could actually have cataclysmic effects downward through the food web.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like, say the dragons are eating the gazelles and the gazelles eat the grass, right?
Right.
Yes.
If the dragons disappear, then the gazelles suddenly go up. There's tons and tons of gazelles, but there's way too many for the grass to support, so they eat all the grass disappears, and then the gazelles all die.
Right.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So that's interesting, because then maybe the dragons overpopulated,
Yeah.
and then there wasn't enough prey for them, so they started stealing from the dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the elves showed up, and war.
And war happened.
And then they started eating the elves.
Well...
Impossible to say, really.
No, but that is a really good theory, I would say, as to like why we haven't seen any of the prey species. If it's a top-down... What did you call it? Top-down control?
Top-down control, yeah. You have top-down control and bottom-up control.
Yeah, so if it's top-down control, then it would make sense.
Cascade.
Trophic cascade.
While we're talking a little bit about, I think this is where it should go.
Okay.
Just because we talked about dragon mating for so long in like 3 of my episodes.
I don't remember this.
So I really just need to broach it.
Okay.
Because we were talking about eggs. And so we talked about mating and eggs and that kind of thing. So the important information is, like Sam said, dragons only need to eat like once a week, but it is stated in the text that they need to eat more often while in the mating season.
Mm-hmm.
So we were hypothesizing that this means that either the egg is very energetically expensive to make.
Yeah.
Or there's like a very elaborate mate choice display situation
that's also
that
good.
goes on during this. And we had figured out that the implication that they don't need to eat that often, but then need to eat once a week during mating, that maybe there's like a sedentary period of time that dragons go through. So like maybe as they get older, there's like the culture allows for them to, not be as active, or Allegasia might have like a hibernation period in the area where dragons are originally from. So they would hibernate for a period of time and then eat a lot before and after that, So I don't know that now that we've read the whole book that it's taken some time. I don't think there's like a winter hibernation period.
No.
Saphira's
behavior like doesn't change as the seasons do.
Yeah. And so I think for this, I think the idea is that there's just a very expensive mating process.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so we had talked about how the interesting thing is that dragons reach reproductive maturity and develop the ability to breathe fire at the same time.
Was that canonical, or did we just...
Yeah, canonical.
Okay.
Yeah, Brahm says they reach their maximum or their reproductive maturity and are able to breathe fire at 5 to 6 months.
Oh my god, Saphira's only 6 months at the end of this book.
Yeah. So we were like, if they don't have fire breathing before that, clearly it doesn't mean they need fire breathing for hunting.
Yeah.
It's probably for a mate display.
Yeah.
Or something.
Why else would they happen at the same time? Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like so weird because fire breathing is so much to have.
Yeah.
But if we think about it in terms of like this, whatever this reaction is going on also is helpful in creating the eggs, right? Then maybe it makes sense that at reproductive maturity, that's what's happening to help make the eggs. And one of the side effects is that it means they can also breathe fire. And so they use it as a mate display.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
you know?
that. Yeah.
I feel like that's such a reasonable explanation for an absolutely bonkers set
Yes.
of traits. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like whatever creates magic in their bodies makes this nuclear reaction go off, which helps them make eggs, and because of it they have to breathe fire sometimes, which they use as a mate display.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. We'll go with
Yeah.
that.
No notes.
No
10
notes.
out of 10.
Yeah.
All correct.
Oh my god. What the hell? I had totally forgotten the fact that, like, we had a canonical age for both of
Yeah.
those things.
Yep.
So this is a point where it would have been useful if one of us had, like, continued to read the rest of the series before recording this
Sure.
episode, because I do remember that I think in the fourth book, Saphira does mate with one of the other dragons. I don't remember what it entails, though.
Do they do it in front of everybody?
I don't know. Hold on. I'm
Okay.
gonna Google this real quick. On the Green Dragons inheritance.fandom.com wiki page, it just says Saphira was his mate for a short time. It is unknown if Saphira will return to him or if she will lay eggs.
Cool. I don't think we need to read it then. I think our solution is right.
Yeah. I really want to know now.
I mean, you can read all the books and tell us about it.
Yeah.
The last important thing about mating that I wanted to add is that we decided they did it butt to butt.
Oh, I forgot that fact.
I forgot that too. Ah.
There's just too many spines, you guys.
Oh, there's a lot of spines.
It doesn't make sense
what
any
the
other
hell?
way.
Oh my god.
No.
The other option was one of them lies down, which might also happen, but I feel like we all just liked the idea of butt to butt better because it made us laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's dragon mating.
Oh my god.
Unless you guys had anything to add.
That's delightful.
I don't have anything on mating, but I want to pivot back on behavior because we skipped over like my favorite thing that I've remembered from
Oh my god,
reading.
yeah.
Well, it's because like all of us have a husbandry background, and so we went into dragon husbandry. And so we were like, okay, they would need like scale buffing, claw trimming, serrated claw sharpening. But then we also went into the discussion of like, why would a dragon husbandry be needed anyways? And then we came to my favorite conclusion was that the dragons are social grooming animals. And then hence without the other dragons, they need husbandry when they're not with their group because they can't reach their own scales and stuff. And so I just love that fact. And so I wanted to bring it back up. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
I love it.
So good. 10 out of 10.
So
no notes also there.
Yeah. Social grooming. 100% a thing.
Didn't we also talk about how Twilight vampires have social grooming? Which is way funnier.
Which is way funnier.
I think it was a joke, but...
We also talked about who would win in a fight, whether it was Edward or Saphira. We decided it was Saphira.
It's definitely Saphira. She can rip his head off and then burn the pieces.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair.
Those were my only add-ins. I just wanted to make sure we brought back up the social grooming because I thought it was a very important point.
That's amazing.
It's extremely important. I am glad you brought it up.
Yeah. I do want to move to the next thing, which is
Yes.
magic.
Oh my god.
I have nothing about magic.
Oh no.
Again, we hadn't really gotten into anything more than like the mind stuff, which I guess it was more on Eragon's side than on Saphira's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than like the only thing was that the mind talking could be like there are EEGs that can read thought patterns, which in theory one day could maybe lead to finding out what those thought patterns are. But there's like no technology even close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe there's an actual scientific basis for what the magic allows to happen, but that's about it. That's all I had.
All right.
On the mind speak, the only thing I had from that was we did figure out kind of like how far they can go before it's not possible.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, so we knew from one point that they can do it across the city, and it seems like the range is, in quotes, leagues which isn't a very good definition,
No.
but it's pretty far.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
basically, like, from across the cities, they were able to do it. So that
Okay.
was something. And then on the other, unless, Hannah, do you have anything on mind speaking you want to
No,
talk
I
about
don't.
now?
I'm glad you had that, though, because I could not remember how far it was, and I knew we'd talked about it.
It's just leagues. That's all we know.
Right.
Ugh, better than nothing.
The other magic thing we brought up, but we never actually really talked about it because I think we were so distracted by everything else going on in the chapter, is that, like, Saphira makes Brahm's tomb a diamond
yeah.
Oh,
by
yeah.
touching it, but we never actually talk about, like, how. I think we all just kind of assumed it was magic and brushed it off, because I was, like, listening to the episode and I'm like, okay, I'm, like, getting ready to take the note, and I'm like, when are we going to talk about it? And, like, then we started talking about what books we were reading, and I was like, what? We just, like, didn't talk about it. I don't really think there's any conclusion to how it happened besides magic, but that happened.
Well, in some of the later chapters, Saphira and Eragon are talking about her magic, and she says that she has no control over it, which is probably
Yeah.
why we couldn't talk about it at that point, because
Maybe.
nobody, including her, knew what was going on. She did say she has no more control over it than a spider does, which we all objected to, because spiders do things with a lot of intention.
Yeah.
Yes.
But one of the best theories we came to was that Saphira, like, can't do magic intentionally, and part of that is probably because her magic is being used for, like, unconscious life processes, like flying or, like,
Mhm.
keeping her gigantic dragon body working properly. But she can kind of channel it into specific tasks if she is thinking about it or, like, focusing on a specific thing that she wants to happen. So that's, like, really all we got about her, like, dragon magic in this book, is that it's
Yeah.
unconscious, but that, like, dragons are beings of magic, kind of. So they
Yes.
have a lot of magic in them, but as to how they use it, we don't know yet.
But she can turn things to diamond.
Yeah, and she, like, blessed that kid with the Varden just by, like, touching
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Like, she does a couple of just kind of weird things with magic that nobody, including her, can explain. And therefore neither can we.
No explanation, just vibes.
Just vibes.
Yep. We're giving all those the check mark that just says, yes, it's magic.
Yes, it's magic.
Yeah, and with that, let's get into our final category. It's the last one, which is how big is Saphira?
Oh my god! How big is she, though?
How big is she?
That's all I want to know from this book at this point, is just how big is Saphira, and I still
don't know. Yeah, I only have, obviously, early days Saphira size. So at one point, her head is over a meter long, and at another point, she's taller than a horse.
Okay.
Yep.
At the shoulder.
That's the same thing I have. It's just that at one point she's taller than a horse, longer than a horse, but no one's really sure. And I mentioned this before, but at one point Braun can wrap his arms around her neck. So that's all really I have to go on, is that.
I mean, so that means her neck is like 2 feet, right? Wide diameter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe she just
That's
has a
good to
thick
know.
neck. Well, I got the episodes where me and Sophie started doing unhinged dragon math.
God.
Yeah.
So the first one was me with my Saphira's Fang is as big as Eragon's fist. I'm going to make a bunch
Oh
of
my
wild
God.
assumptions and use that
Mhm.
and the cover image to decide how big she was. And I came to the conclusion from that she was at about 6 months old at that point, 3.6 meters tall at the shoulder, which would make her the height of 2.5 giraffes or a 4-story building, and that her wingspan would be the same as a 747.
At the shoulder
At
of
the
4-story
shoulder.
building.
Yeah. We did decide that was implausible.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That wingspan was also, like, based on the Ichi proportions, and as we know, Saphira's not a glider, so she would
Yeah.
probably have, like,
Yeah.
slightly smaller wings, but still big as hell. And then we find out that Hrothgar, the Dwarf King, is knee-high to Saphira, And that's when Sophie does some math to come up with some slightly better numbers. That she is she is probably around 13 feet at either her head or her shoulder, depending on if she's digitigrade or not.
Plantigrade.
Plantigrade, yep, thanks. Which would make her the height of 1.5 giraffes.
Wow.
And then the last, more concrete number we get is that when Eragon is seated on Saphira's back, he is too high up to fight a regular Urgle, but high enough to fight a Cull, which are a minimum of 8 feet tall. Taking into account Eragon's height, his sword reach, and his sword length, that was another estimate of 10 to 12 feet at the shoulder. So Saphira's probably around 12 feet tall at her shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I believe that.
12 feet sounds right.
In one chapter, she's inside Ajahad's study, and then 2 chapters later, she's too big to fit inside of a room.
Oh my god. Wait, how much is that in meters?
In meters, that's 3.6 meters, which is about the same length as a great white shark.
I had the episode where you did a linear math of how tall Saphira should be at full growth.
Uh-huh.
You got 3.3 meters.
Oh my god! What the hell? So literally we just had to do a linear equation based on 2 data points that I harvested from the early chapters. I hate this book! I'm quitting the podcast!
I would just like to say on the record that Hannah just said she hates this book.
Somebody write that down.
This is
That's
stupid.
It's a good thing I'm editing this episode.
God, that's so funny.
I'm quitting. I'm never doing this podcast again.
Okay, well, while Hannah quits, just one last thing that I can hear Hannah quitting.
Yeah,
from
me too.
here. I just in the spirit of Twilight, I just want to confirm that we have a flying speed for Saphira of 39 kilometers per hour, which is about half the speed of a pigeon.
Oh my god.
That's great.
Who designed this dragon?
A 15-year-old boy.
Oh yeah, that explains so much. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That was with some heavy assumptions, but it all is.
Dragons are stupid. I came into this book loving dragons, and I finished the book loving dragons, and now I've changed my mind. Dragons are stupid. I don't like this.
Those are some powerful words.
You're gonna have to do so much math if you ever write a dragon book.
No, I don't want to write dragon math. I'll just hire Sam to do the math for me.
Yeah, that's a
I'll
great
do that.
idea.
Sam only does math if she's being paid, but...
No, I would do math for you.
Oh my god, really?
Well,
Yeah, if you actually needed it for a book or something, yeah.
That's friendship right there.
Truly.
I won't do it for the podcast, but if you do need it for a book, I will help you with that, of course.
I'll make fun of all the times you accidentally spell a word wrong.
Yeah.
And by that I mean edit.
Thanks.
Anyway, I think that summarizes our dragon biology.
Wow.
I think we did it.
That was a lot.
I'm
guys.
exhausted.
I'm exhausted also.
Oh my god.
But not as exhausted as the Twilight one, so I'm glad we split
True.
it up 3 ways this time.
Yes.
Yeah, Sophie wasn't in grad
Yeah.
school when we did the Twilight one yet. So
Yeah,
she did
I
all
was
of
in
the work.
quarantine for 2 entire weeks, so I needed things to do. But that's it.
Wow.
Thanks for definitely reading Eragon along with us,
Yes.
everyone at home.
Mm-hmm.
We're not reading the next book next.
No.
No, some of us are.
Some of us, named Hannah, are. Yeah, but that's it for Eragon. The end.
Wow.
Time to go to sleep.
Goodbye.
Because it's the end of the chapter. Do you get it?
Oh my god.
Oh,
I didn't.
I'm gonna pass out into tomorrow.
Into the next
Into
chapter.
the next book.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna pass out into my next chapter.
Yeah.
I want that as a sticker.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, maybe we'll have some. Yeah, let's talk about what else we're reading. I might have mentioned this in the last one, but I haven't picked up anything new. So I'm still rereading Harrow the Ninth.
Nice.
Nice.
And that's it. is
Yeah.
wild. What about you guys?
I haven't started anything new. I'm still reading the same. Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, Harrow the Ninth, and I'm still trying to read The Lies of Locke Lamora. Oopsie!
Whoop.
I'm reading The Lies of Locke Lamora, and it's so good.
Ah!
I forgot, and it's just reminding me that, like, Jean Tannen is possibly my favorite fictional character of all time. Like, I just love him so
Well, I
much.
like that you call him Jean. I call him Jean.
So do I. I'm listening to the audiobook this time, and they call him Jean, so...
Oh, they call him Jean?
Jean Tannen,
Oh.
yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. Oh, I love him. He's just the best.
I'm getting my flu and bivalent vaccine tomorrow, and my plan is to just read The Lies of Locke Lamora all day.
Wow.
Oh,
What a good
nice.
day. I am also reading Ocean's Echo. I just got it. It just came out yesterday.
Oh.
And I'm only like 50 pages in, but it's so good so far. It's by
Oh.
Everina Maxwell, who's the same author who wrote Winter's Orbit. Winter's Orbit.
Yeah.
And it's set in the same universe, but with new characters. And I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yay.
This episode does not come out on November 11th, but it does come out in November. And we will be reading Pure Nessie by Susanna Clark for our Midnight Book Club. Hopefully, by
Yay.
that point.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
That's the whole thing. So, if you enjoyed reading Eragon along with us at Midlight Crisis, consider rating and reviewing us on your podcatcher of choice or on Spotify. I've forgotten how to do the outro. You can find fun-related content on social media at Midlight Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And all chapters of this show thus far are available on our website, midlightpod.podbean.com, and on YouTube.
And since we don't have a quote from Eragon this week, we're going to announce the next book we're reading, which is... Maximum Ride by James Patterson.
Ooh.
Hell yeah. Hell
man.
yeah. Hell yeah. It's my turn, baby. I don't want to hate this book at the end of it, but I will.
But you will.
But you might.